Hello, welcome to the Counter Press. It's another edition, and I think the 15th edition of the Counter Press. And today's show is a tactical review of the two Champions League semi-finals that has been played over the last weekend. Trust me, this show has all the tactical details that you'd want to see that unfolded at the Santiago Bernabeu and at the San Siro in Milan. So let's get straight into it. Like we always do, do share, like, and subscribe for me here. And like I always do, I'll get you the best breakdown, tactical analysis of post games, and of course, pre-match analysis as well. So yeah, thank you very much for choosing us again. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. This is a Counter Press. Let's go. So there were two Champions League games, right? Inter Milan are 90 minutes away from their first Champions League final in about 12 years, over a decade. Real Madrid are still in a gunning for a Champions League final, about the sixth time in the last decade. For Manchester City, it is a possible Champions League final berth for them again, twice in the last 3 years. So it's been huge for them, and this is how the games unfolded. So, first of all, Real Madrid hosted Manchester City at the Santiago Bernabeu. So, for Real Madrid, it was a regular 4-3-3 on paper, but like I always say, it always can be a variation as well. It can be the 4-2-3-1. The absence of Fela Mendy affecting the team meant that Eduardo Camavinga started at fullback. There was also the absence of Eder Militao, who was also out on suspension. So it was Antonio Rudiger, Alaba, Eduardo Camavinga, and then Dani Carvajal, while Steve Courtois was in post. Right in front of them, for the first time, Toni Kroos played as a holding midfielder, as a DM, not as an attacking number 8 or a CM, with, of course, Luka Modric and then Fede Valverde on the left and right, respectively. Whilst up top, it was a regular Rodrigo Goes, Vinny Jr., and then, of course, Karim Mustafa Benzema. Now, I have said it several times. I think that Real Madrid are this good in the Champions League because in the Champions League, most teams are not as direct as you would want them to be. But Real Madrid are very direct. I don't think that teams get a lot of time to specifically prepare for games opponent-wise in the Champions League. Madrid have honed the art and the craft of sitting deep and being almost impeccable in attacking transitions. And that's exactly what they get. And I think the game was largely to that. For on the other side, City started in a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, but we'll talk about the variations also. It was Ederson in post, John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Manuel Akanji on the left-hand side, and Kyle Walker on the right. Of course, Kyle Walker was there to deal with the pace of Vinny Jr. Whilst in the middle of the park, it was Ike Gundogan, Rodrigo Goes, Kevin De Bruyne, making a midfield three. And then, of course, in attack, it was Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, and then Erling Haaland. So, for the part of Manchester City, we know that for the better part of about 4 or 5 games, Pep Guardiola started 4 straight centre backs, and then they revert from a back 4 to a back 3. So John Stones was playing like a hybrid CM and DM. But in the injury of Nathan Ake means that Akanji was supposed to go and play on the left. Mind you, Akanji is a right-footed centre back. So that side of his play definitely was going to affect the game and how they wanted to play. Against Arsenal, I expected that to happen, but that didn't really happen. He had some good angles in receiving on the ball. He had some good angles in playing forward, and it was good. So in a game like this, Pep really felt that it was going to happen again. It was going to work, and then he still opted for that one. And that, I think that made sense. That was a good one. It was a good choice because he had seen it before. Also, he could have gone for Emerick Laporte, who's a natural left-footed player, or Rico Lewis, who, in my opinion, have the natural angles to receive, turn, and play forward. And also, when he's being pressed, he has a natural angles to receive and then play into midfield anytime they wanted. So For Pep, the principle is simple. Pep always wanted to progress the ball with 3-2, like have three players behind the ball or on the ball in the first place, with two players being able to receive in the first phase for them. And with these two players being able to receive, he had two also players right ahead of them, so forming a box midfield of four. So Pep's principles were that positional play with three center backs anytime they had the ball. So they always are going to start in a back four, but end up in a back three when they push up a little bit. So it was always going to be John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Kai Walker, and then Manola Kanji, forming somewhat of a back three. Whilst John Stones slots into the middle of the park to play as a base with Rodrigo. Whilst he does that, there was Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne playing as on top of them, seeming like attacking number 8, forming the box midfield. Then right ahead of them, it was Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, and Erling Haaland. So Pep does this to get a lot of men around the ball, to win the numerical superiority, and also to use the technical abilities in build-up. And whilst he does this, he's still able to stick to his positional play with Jack Grealish and Bernardo Silva staying high and wide. When they need be, Bernardo Silva will cut inside so that there will be some overlapping runs from fullback as well. So generally, this was the idea of how Pep wanted to play. The issue, however, was that for this game, Akanji really wasn't effective. Akanji wasn't getting his angles. He turns and he's being pressed from Real Madrid. And I think that Madrid variated very well between a high and low press. They played very well. They sank deep and sat in a very low block anytime they realized that City were dropping and then having a lot of time on the ball. They didn't have issues. Once the ball shifted to wide areas, they were fine. But once it was in central areas, they wanted to always block and not necessarily over commitment to go and press. And I think it was a very good one. If you look at the goal that Real Madrid scored, it came from deep areas. Eduardo Camavinga, I must say, was an exceptional player in those areas, in those combination plays that he had with Modric. And that was exactly why Modric was played in that area, to play those quick combination passes so that Eduardo Camavinga can carry the ball forward with his very, very good ball carrying abilities. And I think that's essentially how Real Madrid stayed in this game. Carry forward, stay in the game, and then let's do a lot of rotations up front. For me, there was nothing really novel about how Madrid played. This is exactly what they've been playing in a Champions League. Very hinged on very good and of almost impeccable attacking transitions. Sits in a low block, but then your rest attack should be smart and be switched on, just so that once there is that turnover, you can carry the ball up forward quickly and get a job done. So that's what they did. City did not have a foothold of the game generally, and I think that came from Akanji. So build up from the back wasn't good. Build up was largely in central areas where Madrid had blocked those areas. So if you realize, every time it was Ruben Diaz was trying to carry the ball forward and then find passing options, so it didn't happen. Elsewhere, when Nathan Ake is on the field, they have very good build up from the left and right when Akanji is also on the other side. So that is what happens. I know that Pep wants to have natural center 18-yard box center backs, and that's why he plays all of these flat center backs so that they can also deal with Madrid's counter attacks or attacking transitions, because he knows it that this was how they were going to tear them apart if they were not careful. So generally the idea was there for Pep, but I think it was an issue of personnel that's really they let him down in this game. But of course, you can't take anything away from Real Madrid. If you say that you want to get a job done against Real Madrid, then you have to be good in defending in defensive transitions and making sure that you stop them as and when you do. If you don't do that, they are going to hurt you, and that's exactly what they did. So it was a game generally hinged of Madrid's solidity in defensive transitions, making sure that they pick their moments, sit back, suck the pressure, and then be quick with your rest attack. Whilst for City, they wanted to dominate the game and have a lot of controllers. They did that. It was 3 at the back, a box midfield of 4, and then 3 up front. Solid positional play. But then really, whilst they had large parts of the ball, the threat wasn't coming, because for out wide, Eduardo Camavinga, all the times where he was being overloaded, dealt well with those balls. Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne tried to overload him, but he won those balls as well. For Carvajal, he won that battle earlier on with Jack Grealish. I felt that Jack Grealish's ball retention has been one of the best in recent times under Pep. So a lot of the ball should have gone to him. He should have taken on Carvajal a lot more. I know that Pep wanted Carvajal to get on a yellow card earlier so that Jack Grealish could take him on, but the referee wasn't having any of that. So generally, it was a beautiful attacking display from Mancity, but then I love defensive solidity. I love it when teams are able to craft an art in stopping people. I love it like that. So the game is balanced going to the Ethihad. Possibly we are going to see the return of two center backs who can really, really influence the game, which is Eda Militao and then Nathan Ake. On Wednesday, yeah, that game is going to come up and we'll talk about it. So yes, this is a tactical breakdown of Man City, Real Madrid, the counter press. See you.